If I don't run that meeting and I run that meeting like a normal construction meeting, I'm not getting decision maker. I'm not getting budget. I'm not getting what you spend in electrical repairs every single year. I'm not getting what you budget for failure. I'm not getting critical areas. I'm not getting how old your assets are. I'm not getting what the environment looks like. I'm not getting any of that because I haven't been trained and I'm not using a sales process. I'm shooting from the hip. So discovery is what discovery is. As a matter of fact, if there's anybody on your show that's watching, if they've ever used an attorney, what's the first thing that an attorney does when you walk into an attorney? Where were you? Was it day, night? Was it wet, dry? Who were you with? Were there any bystanders? They run a discovery meeting with you because how are they going to solve your case if they don't run a discovery meeting with you? It's the same shit.
Sean Samson is a renowned thought leader, entrepreneur, and sales expert in the electrical, mechanical, and service and maintenance industries.
As CEO and founder of Sean Samson Training, he's helped over 300 contracting organizations across 16 countries build predictable recurring revenue through stronger service and maintenance operations.
Sean, welcome back to the Sideshed podcast for episode 2 of a little series we put together here. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here, man. I'm having some fun with this. This is great.
Yeah, and for you guys that didn't catch hold of the episode 1, we were talking about, Sean went through the 10 reasons why your service and maintenance businesses will never grow, touch on a bunch of different dynamics there. I probably encourage you guys to go check that one out if you haven't heard that one yet, because I imagine some of the things that we're going to cover today will tie into that at some level. Anyway, today we are talking about the benefits of a service and small project sales process, something that I see and I have a lot of experience with working with clients and helping them develop process. And the reason, quite simply, Sean, from our perspective, is from the perspective of a marketing agency, generating the leads is never really the problem. It's always 100% of the time the conversations that follow, which is part of the sales process, which really makes the difference when it comes to conversions. So I know we touched on this a little bit in the previous episode when we were talking about the difference of businesses that are used to working with referrals and word of mouth leads and those really sort of hyper warm, warm, fuzzy, yep, oh, what's your name? Great, sign here, perfect, off we go kind of conversations where when we throw them in that nasty snake pit of cold traffic, they've got to jump through a lot more hoops to get these, clients warmed up to that sort of level. So the sales process is absolutely paramount.
100%. It's the only way for leadership, principal owners to scale their business, man, on the sales side. It really, there's a, and we'll get into it, dude, but there's, this is an interesting topic because if you think of, and what we talked about this in our last episode, we talked about that contractors don't look at themselves as sales organizations. Well, because of that, why in the world would they have a sales process? There's no sales process. There's no, and this is a big word, and that there's no standardization. So this is an interesting conversation. So let's say that I've been selling for ABC Plumbing for the last 5 years, and I'm just a rock star sales guy. And my owner goes, you know what? Matt's coming to I've hired Matt, and Matt's coming in to sell now. Okay, cool. Matt comes in to sell, and you're like, Sean, would you mind if I ride with you for a couple of days? I just want to see how you do things, man. And I'm like, yeah, man, come on, ride with me. So you see me on my sales calls. You see me how I handle customer objection, how I handle negative feedback, all those things. But the problem is that there's no standardization. And you go, hey, how did you close that deal? And I'm like, man, you know what, man? I just kind of shot from the hip, man. And once in a while, I'll do this. Once in a while, this kind of works for me. As a matter of fact, Matt, the other day I tried X, Y, and Z. That bombed, but I gave it a shot. Yeah. So because there's no standardization from a perspective of this is my first meeting, and I'm going to give you what the names of these meetings are for both for MEP, for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, because it's all the same. If I don't follow a very particular sales process with particular sales tools, there's no way to scale that out, man. So if this episode is called "The Benefits of Service and Small Project Sales Process," the big benefit is that I have to develop standardization across the board for my entire team. And not only do I need to create standardization for the salespeople, but if there's no standardization, how do I manage that? Tell me how that works.
Well, it doesn't. And I think this kind of ties back to that conversation 100%. That we had, in episode 1, where we're saying, well, what has got us to here is not going to get us to there. And the difference often is, when you go from, managing a team of 4 technicians and all of a sudden now you're a 10 technician business, you can't manage that many people on your own. You need to have systems. And yes, it's relevant with what we're talking about here in sales, but it's also relevant everywhere else. Like all parts of that business needs to evolve to incorporate systems that people can follow to create consistency with the outcome. And the thing that we see so often within sales process evolution is because, like, truth be told, the majority of your competition out there, guys, do not do this. The fact that you have a sales process sticks out like dog's balls. And people understand and they appreciate being part of the process that has been defined because they can see where they're sitting within it. And that's the feedback that we get from our clients. They're like, you guys have got this dialed in. You obviously know this is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Like, they can see that there's something happening there. And that is what really exudes confidence within that customer, because they're like, we can see this isn't something that they've just pulled out of the sky and they're making up as they go on the fly. Like, it's a legitimate process and they're following this to the T.
100%, man. There's on the MEP across the board, there's a 3-stage process on, and it's a little bit different on the resi side, and I'll explain. And you can certainly chime in on that too, Matt. But on the commercial industrial side, there's a 3-step process to selling service and maintenance agreements. Okay. The first process is what we call.
What we're talking about here, Sean? Are we talking about service maintenance agreements as the sales process for that, or is that the next episode? Or are we just talking in general process?
Well, we can certainly get into a deeper dive of what is included in the process, but the benefits of the service and small project sales process, the benefits of this is to have a process in place. So do we want to talk about what that process is, or we just want to talk about the benefits of having that process, and or what are the ramifications of not having those systems in place? Or that system in place, I should say.
You can row the boat. I just know in the next episode we're going to be diving a lot more into selling those service agreements, which I think is where a lot of this will come full circle for guys that are doing, residential maintenance, for example, on a transactional basis, and now at that point we'll be able to teach them how to sort of expand that into more of a recurring model. But anyway, I'll let you row the boat on that.
No, I think that, like you had said when you opened up the episode, you're going to find that a lot of these topics will run into each other because this is a big root system is what we're talking about, So I think that there's a lot of commonality between these. Might be 3 episodes, but there's a lot of commonality between how these kind of all function and kind of how these all kind of work together, right? But if we're talking standardization, that's absolutely the key, because I can't scale that on the sales side because I have a different system than you have. So if you're a new salesperson that comes in, you're shooting from the hip. And if I'm a management person, I can't manage that because I don't know what to manage. I don't know what to key in on. I don't know where the gaps are, where you're functioning from such a perspective of, you get this part of the sale, or you're functioning from a perspective of this is where you're completely just dropping the ball.
I know there's nothing for me to key in on. So I'm so glad that you say this, because when sometimes when you talk to your clients over and over about the same thing, you kind of start sounding like their dad and they stop listening. So it's great to have this come from you. But to give you context on how we see this all the time, like there's obvious metrics and numbers when it comes to sales and marketing, and the obvious, like from a marketing perspective, okay, we know what your cost per lead is, we know what your cost per click is, and all this kind of stuff. But the less obvious numbers, the things that we're truthfully only really interested in, are the metrics that relate to the sales process. So, how many of these leads turned into your discovery call? How many discovery calls turned into a site visit? How many site visits did you take a deposit or get some sort of cash down on? How many of those turned into closed projects? Like those are not obvious. You can't pull that off platform. I can't get that information out of Google. I need to get it from you. And every single one of these different stages is an opportunity to turn screws and tighten process.
100%. So it's funny that you had mentioned those types of processes, and I guess we can get into those because they're very similar on the commercial industrial side. But if you have 3 or 4 discovery calls this week, dude, and one of those goes to a job walk, and none of those go to a booked agreement or what we would call the next part of our process, which is a verification meeting, where's the log jam? Like, what do I key in on as a sales manager? And just so we're on the same page, you can't be in charge of salespeople if you don't understand sales. That should be a rule across the board. Anybody watching these episodes can't be in charge of salespeople if you don't understand sales. And I would highly suggest that you go out and ride with your salespeople so you can get an understanding of what their processes are or aren't. Yeah. How many GMs, dude, or how many sales managers really ride with their sales teams?
Probably very few.
That's the answer. Exactly. Very few. Yeah. Right. I mean, how many GMs I've cornered and I go, hey, when was the last time you rode with Bob? I don't have time to ride with Bob. Oh, okay. Because the last time I heard it is that Bob had a quota, and if Bob didn't sell, Bob was going to get axed. So you don't have time to ride with Bob. You don't have time to close deals. You don't have time to open up conversation, and you don't have time to go ahead and break processes down and figure out where things are getting log jammed and help Bob. Because the last time I saw you were the sales GM. How come that's not happening?
Yeah.
Right.
I think like you touch on something there, which is super important. And this is an experience that I've absolutely had within my own businesses when you're trying to promote people into like management sort of positions that don't understand the sales process. And because that's where the money comes from. And like, at any management, truthfully, like even operational, like I find if they don't understand how the sales are generated, they don't understand the conversations and all those kind of moving parts, then inevitably it's impossible for them to manage the metrics like beyond like that sort of surround it because they just don't get it.
Dude, I'll tell you how right you are. Every quarter we send out what we call it's a general manager touch point. One of the questions on that general manager touch point is, let's say that you're the sales guy. The question is to the GM, if Matt got hit by a bus and he's no longer there, would you be able to go out, pick up where Matt left off, and sell what it is that you're expecting Matt to sell? Would you be able to do that? And the answer 98% of the time is no, I couldn't. So if I have a general manager that can't do that, then what am I, as a salesperson, what am I going to learn from you? Like, why would I need you? If I can't close a deal, you know what I need you to do as my GM? I need you to ask me some very specific questions, and then I need to pick up that phone and I need to close that deal for you. That's what I need from my GM. And most GMs can't do that because they number one, they haven't been trained in sales, and two, they're just not paying attention, man. That's the salesperson's job. I'm here to manage them.
You know, the other reason, and we're probably going to get to this, and I'm probably jumping the gun, but you can tell me to shut up at any point. The reason why this...
It's your show, dude. I'm never telling you to shut up.
The reason why this sales process that we see is so important is, as you touched on before, it's something that's predictable that other people can follow. But the other reason is when we start like working with these businesses and they start going through these series of like growth patterns, if you want to call it that, inevitably what happens, and we see this like 100% of the time, the role that it's, and in a smaller business, it's often the business owner who's wearing this hat, but his hat has to change. And the hat has to change from being the guy who's out there that's actually doing the work, managing the job, managing the employees, and selling the jobs, to being the guy that can literally just go out to the site and close the jobs. And so the systems are designed to help equip the team to do the things that he can no longer do the way that he wants them done. So, in the way that he wants them done. And I think that's a really important, like when we're onboarding people into these, into these programs, it's like you need to understand that you are going to have to take this hat off and put this hat on at some point, and that point is going to be right here. And we need to plan for that. What does planning for that look like? Well, okay, we need to make sure that we've got someone who can manage the guys on site, because you're not going to be able to do all of these things anymore. And this is really important that you do this thing, because this thing is going to fuel everything else. And like just getting buy-in on that level is something that's really, I won't say it's, well, until we, truth be told, until we had a very good like onboarding conversation with them, where we made them understand that dynamic, it was always met with resistance, because they were always like, well, no, I want this result, but I just don't want to be doing anything different.
I agree. Yeah. Hey, nobody likes change, man.
Change is met with resistance.
There's no growth in comfort, and that's not my quote, man. That's from some very smart people. But we're talking about organizations here, like we talked about in the very first episode, that the majority of these folks don't look at themselves as sales organizations. If I haven't looked at myself as a sales organization, why would I have a sales process? If I don't have a sales process, I'm surely not going to have customer-facing sales tools that are going to help me close deals. If I don't have sales tools, that means I probably haven't been trained to sell. I don't know the reasons why people are going to buy from me, why they're not going to buy from me. It's a snowball effect especially in contracting. And by the way, selling service agreements versus selling small projects is the same exact thing. I mean, people buy or don't buy for the same exact reason. And we can get into what those 5 reasons are and talk about those things. But, having a sales process in place is either going to make or break an organization. And the only way to scale that division out is to have everybody use the same exact sales process, have everybody use the same exact sales tools, and understand that those are gauges for me as a general manager to figure out where we're at with forecasting and with onboarding new money. This is an interesting conversation too, Matt, because I can have all of these. I can have the sales process and I can have the sales tools, and we're all going to be using the same thing. But I'm going to sell differently than you are. My approach is going to be way different than your approach. It doesn't mean we're not talking about sales process. We're talking about the approach to the sales process, which are 2 different things. You're going to ask questions differently than I'm going to ask questions. You're going to extract intel differently than I would extract intel, right? You're going to uncover budgets differently than I would uncover budgets differently.
But just to be clear, that's not a bad thing, right?
It's a natural part of just being different people. So
this is what I tell clients, and tell me if this is kind of what you're talking about. The processes and the operating procedures exist. Truthfully, even the vision, mission, and values, they all kind of exist to give you guys boundaries to operate the way you would naturally operate within. It's like the guardrails. Here's the process on how to do the thing. Do it your way. Just make sure you don't go outside of those boundaries.
100%. So I always tell people that they can tweak our processes, but don't change them.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Of course, yeah. I have to have, this is my first meeting, second meeting, third meeting. These are the sales tools that I use, but I'm going to use those sales tools differently and open up conversation differently than you are. It doesn't mean we're not using the same process. We are. We're using this 3 or 4 step process, whatever that process is for people.
Got it. Yeah.
But I'm still going to sell differently than you are. You're still going to open up conversation differently than I am.
Do you want to tell us?
That's great. It's okay.
Talk us through this process, the process that you guys train them on, like the steps.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you mentioned a couple of them.
I'm
5 minutes
sure.
ago. Yeah.
Did we become
it's
best friends?
it's not a secret. So when I first started selling, man, I was trained by a gentleman that had started Honeywell. And I was very fortunate to be able to hang with these people, man. And they are still some of my mentors. And when you look at the MEP sales process on the commercial industrial side, and it is very familiar, or there are similarities on the resi side.
MEP,
But it's a
mechanical, electrical, plumbing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Yep. So the sales process that we train on is a 3-step sales process. It's what you mentioned, my first meeting, which is my discovery meeting or my exploratory meeting, right? I have to be able to have that meeting first because I don't know what type of buyer you are. So let's stay commercial industrial just for a quick second. If I don't run that meeting and I run that meeting like a normal construction meeting, I'm not getting decision maker. I'm not getting budget. I'm not getting what you spend in electrical repairs every single year. I'm not getting what you budget for failure. I'm not getting critical areas. I'm not getting how old your assets are. I'm not getting what the environment looks like. I'm not getting any of that because I haven't been trained and I'm not using a sales process. I'm shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
Right? So discovery is what discovery is. As a matter of fact, if there's anybody on your show that's watching, if they've ever used an attorney, what's the first thing that an attorney does when you walk into an attorney? Where were you? Was it day, night? Was it wet, dry? Who were you with? Were there any bystanders? They run a discovery meeting with you because how are they going to solve your case if they don't run a discovery meeting with you? It's the same shit. If I go in to see a doctor, discovery meeting. If there's anybody on your that's going to watch your podcast, anybody that is working with an investor or a money manager, what's the first thing they do? They run you through 20, 25 different questions to figure out what do you want to spend? What stocks are you interested in? How much can you spend per, right? So for some reason, we don't look at this sales position as that type of, not to interrupt you, we don't look at the sales position as that type of having that level of professionalism. And it absolutely is.
Without question, discovery is if you guys can get discovery right, it is has the biggest impact on your sales process other than any other stage. And for the reasons that Sean mentioned, but like also in the interest of preserving everybody's time, like if they're not the right fit, you need to unpack that in discovery because you sure as shit don't want someone sending somebody out to site for a client that is not qualified. That is the whole point. And
couldn't agree more, dude.
Do you know one thing that we see, and truth be told, this is even often more prevalent in larger businesses that we deal with. You know, we've got some clients that are doing, you know, like $1 million a month kind of thing, and they've sort of come out of this, like their metrics for success for their CSRs and their call takers are to put the guys on the road into site visits. And I'm like, whoa, hold up. Like, we are measuring the wrong thing here. Like the measurement needs to be how many of these site visits are closing into jobs, which is something that needs to happen in discovery. Like this is like if we're sending someone out on site, these people are coming on board. Like there's a super high possible chance of what we're going to be able to take a deposit when we get there. And that all needs to be outlaid in discovery.
I couldn't agree more. And if you look at the 3 characteristics of great salespeople, it's these 3, and these are the 3 that I always look at when I'm coaching people. In discovery, I have to have a high level of curiosity. If I don't have a high level of curiosity and I don't understand that, then sales is not my game. The second characteristic is that they have to have a high level of empathy for the people that they're going in to meet with. And empathy, absolute tactical empathy, matters in sales, especially in the arena that we're talking about. And the third thing is having the instinct of knowing when to shut up, when to continue to talk, when to key in on particular sentences or words that they're using and not blow past those and continue to ask questions. Those 3 things, curiosity, empathy, and instinct, are either make or break great salespeople. 100%.
And I think process plays such a heavy part in that because, well, for a number of reasons. First of all, it does create those boundaries and those guardrails. So people are like, okay, well, for example, in discovery, when I'm telling people the first thing I'm going to do when I come out to your site is I'm going to run the technician's going to run his 21-point electrical safety audit. They do that to make sure things are safe, and we don't want our guys going into an unsafe environment. Then they're going to go look at the problem, and they're going to look at surrounding issues. Then they're going to be able to present you with options on things that are going to be able to solve this problem. Blah blah blah, whatever it is, and then they're going to be able to give you the opportunity to get this job carried out right there and then, which involves a scheduling fee or whatever it might be, deposit if it's project based, whatever it is, right? Get them into the calendar. Like I guess the point that the main thing that we try to address with process is reducing friction points that are to come. And what I mean by that is, like, if the customer understands, or the not yet customer understands in discovery that when the guy gets out on site, these are the things they're going to do, then when he goes out there and he does those, then it's expected. Whereas if when you get out there and you haven't told them that they're going to be asking for a deposit, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, what? I wasn't expecting that. So I think most of these things can be solved just through dialogue.
I do too, but don't confuse process with common sense or lack thereof.
No, totally.
Right? Because everybody that we've trained has used the same process. But the folks that have failed didn't have the intuitiveness and didn't have the wherewithal from a curiosity perspective or instinct or empathy to carry on conversations or to dive into more of that discovery meeting and asking questions based on the answers that you're giving me from the questions I'm asking you. That makes sense?
Right? 100%. So if you guys are watching this or listening to this, and this is the way that you operate when it comes to sales, a lead comes in, you call them, you speak to them, you book a site visit. That's wrong. Don't do that. You've got to have a good triage process. You've got to have a good discovery process in between that, because contrary to what you might think, it's often a case of less site visits is better, because you want to be spending more time at site visits that have a higher probability of closing, which means you'll be going to less of them because you'll be disqualifying more of them in discovery. That's a win for everybody. Don't waste everyone's time.
Yeah. It's a little different on our side when it comes to when we place discovery, but the context of this conversation in regards to the importance of question-based selling there's a high level. We're talking the same exact thing. 100%. Right. Yeah.
So beyond discovery, what does the process look like?
Second stage is I have to do a job walk. I have to do an inventory of the assets to figure out what does the environment look like? How old are the assets? Have they ever been touched before? Has condition of maintenance been met? And again, environment. There's a plethora of variables that would that help me design the right program type and the right scope of work doing that job walk or that inventory is what we call. And the third one is they're all important, Matt, but the third one is probably the most important one. We call it a verification meeting. And that meeting is scheduled for about 2 days after the site visit. We're bringing back the price, bringing back the scope, and we're reviewing everything that we discussed in the discovery meeting. So all I'm doing is I'm sitting down with you and I'm going, Matt, let me just explain to you how we got to the point we're at today. You said that you're not a user. You guys have never had maintenance done before. Your business interruption cost is at $105,000 an hour because if you lose that corrugated box machine, you guys are shit out of luck. You've got no maintenance team, and I can go on and build my case. So I have to build my case in my verification meeting, because if I don't do that, the customers are going to be like, so why are we doing this again? Like, why do I want to spend $10,000 with you again?
Is this lending itself
I'm
more?
just reiterating the hurt.
Is this lending itself more to commercial?
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Commercial, industrial. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because like my experience with residential is like that step should be done on site visit in getting the buy-in from the client, because people don't have a lot of time. Maybe they've taken time off work to be home for that. Maybe they've
100% agree.
And I think, and this is another thing, which I think the old model, which people have been running their entire business, which is like, oh, well, We go to the job, we measure up, we disappear, we send a quote out 3 days later, then we follow up and follow up and follow up and follow up on the quote that we know they've already got, but they're not responding to. Like, that is fractured. And that is a waste of everyone's time, and it just doesn't work anymore.
I had a kid that I was coaching years ago, and I was out having lunch with him, and he goes, "Can I ask you a question?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I got a buddy that just started selling, it was selling vinyl siding at that point, residential. And he goes, he just can't seem to close deals." And this goes for both commercial, industrial, and certainly resi, because it's the same exact thing. I asked him a ton of questions and found out that the majority of his calls, he only had one decision maker at home. And that normally that decision maker was the wife. And what did she always say? "You know what, Matt, this looks great. Thanks for putting everything together. My husband's probably going to be home in about an hour, hour and a half, so I'll go ahead and run this by him and then just probably get back to you within the next couple of days." So we all know where that's going to go, right? Because you either have a guy that doesn't want to pull the trigger because his wife isn't involved, or a wife that doesn't want to pull the trigger because her husband isn't involved. Same exact thing with us on the commercial industrial side. If we don't have the decision makers in meetings, or plan to ask to have the decision makers in meetings, or schedule the right time where I know both people are going to be home, then how do you expect to close deals? Because you're going to get people that are going to wait, and they're going to, as a matter of fact, customers are better at closing deals than most salespeople are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's absolutely. There's those key things to identify within discovery. Will the decision making be there? This is the estimate or the budget. Like, what is your budget? And this is an estimate of the job. Is that within your budget? Importantly, are you in a service location that we can get to? You know, all of these things. And what's the time frame that you're looking for this project? And is there any reason when we get out there with all the things covered that you're not there, that you wouldn't want to get this scheduled in for a time that best suits you? Like, it doesn't have to be much more complicated than that. But
it really doesn't, man. But look, we wouldn't have jobs if everybody got it, buddy.
Classic. Yeah. Okay.
Right. But those are the benefits of having a very structured, very dialed in sales process. I mean, for the last 20 minutes, we've been covering the reasons and the effects of not having that in place. And look how many contractors that you've worked with, and how many contractors I've worked with in 16 countries that don't have that in place, but still expect to close deals. How crazy is that?
Yeah, totally. Cool. So are we done on this one then?
Yeah, you think we beat it up pretty good?
I think so.
Yeah.
My closing comments for this, again, something that we see a lot of, we spend all day in this sort of stuff, is just make sure that you have the first, like in order of importance, like make sure discovery is done right as a first point of call. Just get your discovery process dialed in. So you need to train yourself, you need to train your staff, and then importantly, off the back of that, whoever's going out to site needs to understand exactly what they've been told is going to happen in discovery, and they need to do that. Like, it's not a case of them being salesy. They just need to do what you've told them that they're going to be doing when they do get out on site. It's really simple. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about communication between sales and the technical team, or whatever those processes look like, right? I want to be able to deliver what it is I sold.
I'm talking about just like, don't blame them, train them, make sure they know what they're supposed to be doing, because if you don't do that, they're just going to do what they've always done, and that's on you.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the next episode, we're going to come back, guys, and we're going to be talking about how to sell service agreements. Now, the reason that this episode is so important is because so many of you guys and a lot of the people that we work with are in the reactive space, and they're not capitalizing on the recurring revenue aspect that is sitting there in front of your faces. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to link to all of Sean's websites, social handles, emails, so on and so forth in the show notes. So head across to thesiteshed.com, search Sean, SEAN, and the episodes that he's recorded with us will pop up once they've been released. Sean, thank you so much for your time once again. Amazing conversation. And I'm super glad to hear that despite the fact we're in different markets around the world, we have very, very similar concepts and frameworks. We
Yeah,
might call
for
it
sure.
different things, but it seems to be pretty common. So that's great. I'm glad to hear that.
That's great.
Makes me realize that I'm probably on the right track.
Sounds
Anyway.
like you are, Matt.
So that's a wrap, guys. So come back for the next episode. We'll chat then. Ciao.
Awesome.
Hey, guys and girls, how would you like all of the value adds left behind from our podcast guest all put together in the one spot? We've pulled every tool together, every template, every resource shared on the show, and we've packed them all into the Tradie Academy. It's free to join and it's built by the team behind the Site Shed and Tradie Web guys. Inside, you'll get marketing tips, business tools, and first access to future resources, all in one simple dashboard. Just head across to tradie.wiki/pod. That's tradie.wiki/pod. The link's in the episode description. And once again, you just log in once and then you're all set. And if you want to get notified of upcoming episodes, hit subscribe or follow.